Our scripture reading this morning comes from the book of Ezra, chapter 5, verses 6 through 11. The copy of the letter that the governor and his associates sent to King Darius, they sent him a report in which was written as follows. To Darius the king, all peace. May it be known to the king that we went to the province of Judah, to the house of the great God. It is being built of hewn stone, and timber is laid in the walls. This work is being done diligently and prospers in their hands. Then we spoke to those elders and asked them, who gave you a decree to build this house and to finish this structure? We also asked them their names for your information, so that we might write down the names of the men at their head. This was their reply to us. We are the servants of the God of heaven and earth, and we are rebuilding the house that was built many years ago, which a great king of Israel built and finished. Please remain seated and join with Miss Stephanie in singing our prayer for illumination.
Do not be afraid, I am with you. Anybody else find themselves singing this song throughout the week? Yeah, it's really nice. This past week has not been an easy one in our community. We've had some losses. Judy's daughter-in-law, Cindy, lost her dad. Chris and Bill Higgins lost Bill's mom this week. And Pat lost her sweet friend, Ellie. We've had no shortage of medical stays and anxieties. Dave had his hip replacement surgery, which seems to have gone really well. You're here, great. Luann's husband had a triple bypass. He's still at the hospital. And as we heard the news of loss and grief with our sisters and brothers, and as we celebrated these safe and ultimately healing surgeries of Dave and John, I don't know about you, but this week I gave thanks with a renewed perspective for the small mercies in life. This week was a week with a lot of praying. And in a week that could carry such grief and hope, such anxiety and relief, the role of the church seems pretty clear. I found myself at certain points almost afraid or embarrassed to do the jobs related to the sale of our manse and our office move, to send fundraising announcements and pick out new lamps. as if there was some kind of divide between the spiritual work of church and the physical work of our community. This week there is another among us who was lost, the great musician Aretha Franklin. Raised by a Baptist minister in Detroit, Aretha came of age singing gospel in church. And as her talent grew and developed, her voice reached for a larger audience, and she expanded her repertoire beyond Amazing Grace and Precious Lord, Take My Hand, to the songs that we really celebrate her for, right? Respect, R-E-S-P-E-C-T, or Think, or Chain of Fools, great songs. Her songs carried this message of hope and dignity. Sometimes they were almost political, giving voice to a black woman's demand to be respected. And sometimes they were almost too personal, too real, voicing thoughts and feelings usually kept private, confessing someone could make her feel like a natural woman. The Baptist pastor, Reverend Michael Eric Dyson, this week wrote an op-ed in the New York Times about Aretha. He was also raised in Detroit, and his mother grew up attending her father's church. And as Reverend Dyson tells the story of her career, he writes of the time when she left the sacred for the secular. When it came time for her to head for the soul music charts, after she had brilliantly charted the path of soul and gospel music, he writes, she confronted brutal blowback from some black believers. They thought she had betrayed her first love and her true calling. But they were wrong. Her church got larger. Her congregation composed of millions of people in search of a soulful vision of spiritual direction beyond sanctuary doors. Refusing to limit herself to this struggle between two opposing points, the sacred and the secular, Aretha made everything she did something that widened the circle of the holy, choosing not one over the other, but refusing to choose it all. God's abundance poured out in her every song. As you know, all summer we have been reading from the book of Ezra. It's been pretty great, right? Oh, wow, okay, thank you. This is the story about a group of people in the 6th century BC who were taken away from their homes in Israel into exile in Babylon. Babylonians destroyed their livelihoods, their crops, their homes, and their temple, right? The exiles, as they tried to rebuild in Babylon, struggled and grasped to hold on to their tradition, their identity, and they remembered the house of God, and they told their children who were born in Babylon about the splendor of this place they had never known. Then the Persian Empire comes in, right? They defeat the Babylonians. King Cyrus decides to send everyone home and to help them rebuild their temple. Building projects, as we know, are not simple, do not stick to appointed timetables, and rarely please everyone. And so even though the people got to do what they hadn't dared hope, to return to their homes and their lives, even though the priests could revive the community's traditions as they had been meant to be, some people remembered what things had been like before. And the gulf between then and now was almost too much to bear. We read that just as things were getting underway, the people who had remained in the land became resentful that they weren't involved in this project, that the returnees didn't see them as the friends and relatives they were, but treated them as strangers. Those folks who had remained knew the local government players, and they worked their connections to stop the building project, but the prophets urged them to persevere, to keep trying. So we come to Ezra chapter 5 this morning, and we get the actual letter sent to King Darius, saying, should we let these people keep doing this thing? Do you know, did Cyrus tell them this was okay? Because we didn't get that memo. Could you look at your records? And the governors writing this letter say, we asked the people, what's your name? Who are you? Who sent you? And the people respond by saying, we are the servants of the God of heaven and earth. I think often as Christians we get very comfortable thinking in dichotomies, right? In one versus another. There is the sacred and the secular. There is the spirit and the body. There is heaven and there is earth. We're urged to choose one over the other as if God did not create all that exists and did not, after observing all these pieces of creation, call them good. I said last week, I think God is teaching us something really big about hope and imagination, about how we look to the future and what we expect. But there's something else for us here to learn as well, something that came to the fore for me in a real way this week, and that is this. We are the servants of the God of heaven and earth. And so our concern is God's concern for all things, heavenly and earthly. I think God is teaching us that it is just as spiritual to have made Dave a batch of 7-layer bars than to have prayed with him. I think that every action that we commit to the physical improvement of this building is an act of devotion to God. And the more we refuse to divide these two separate poles, just like Aretha, the more of God's abundance we will find. Last Sunday we heard the words of the prophet Haggai, through whom God told the people, "Work, for I am with you." Friends, if we are really going to commit to venturing to the place where God has called us, we have got a lot of work to do. Some of it will feel very spiritual. That's the work of singing and prayer, of study and worship. Some of it will feel very earthly, the work of cleaning and hauling, of fundraising and building. But all of it, I promise you, is holy. As servants of the God of heaven and earth, there is no divide between what's spiritual and what is secular. We are spiritual beings in bodies of flesh and bone created on purpose, that way, to live and move and have our being in God. We were made to feel the presence of God in the daily tasks of our lives as much as in the moments of silent prayer. We were made to walk with God through anxiety, through grief and healing, and to walk with God through hallways and out to dumpsters. We were made for this. I'd like to cede the rest of my sermon time to a different preacher. Her name's Aretha, and this is a song that demonstrates her ability to cross borders, genres. Maybe one of the first mashups. It's Aretha and the gospel choir singing, "Precious Lord, take my hand, and you've got a friend in me." So let's listen to what she has to say to us today. Amen? Amen.